Hey Cowboys Nation, let's go for another round of news from America's team. Watch until the end so you don't miss any news and sign up to stay tuned for everything that comes out about the Cowboys.
Derrick Henry says signing with Cowboys would have been perfect situation, but they never reached out. Derrick Henry is bound for Baltimore, just as the two-time rushing champion expected this offseason. However, Henry admits that it could have been an ideal situation for him to stay home, not in Tennessee, but rather in Dallas. Henry resides in Dallas, but the Cowboys never came calling, which set him up to join the Ravens on a 2-year deal worth up to $20 million. I knew once free agency started that I wanted to work something out with the Ravens, if we could, Henry said recently on the Pivot podcast. Even though I'm living in Dallas and Dallas being a perfect situation, as well, because we lived there, we ain't got to move. But at the same time, Ravens, the history of it, and then talking to Ray Lewis at the Pro Bowl, his passion about the organization, his impact there and how he talked about it. I was like, man, if I'm not in Tennessee or I don't get to go to Dallas, I'd love to be a Raven. Henry's now officially a Raven and happy with how things transpired. Nonetheless, it's certainly interesting that the Cowboys never came calling, especially as they currently stand with the recently re-signed Rico Dowdle as their top back. They ain't holla at me at all, Henry answered when asked if the Cowboys were in the mix. For Henry, it would have been a surreal situation to play with a star on his helmet. Ideal a location as it might well have been, Henry indicated nothing was ever in the works. It would have been crazy, he said. I thought it had been some type of reach out, some type of talks or whatever. They never reached out, you know what I'm saying. I don't really know too much about their organization. All I know is what I hear. I was talking to my agent. They weren't really interested, it is what it is. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna be where I'm gonna be, and I feel like Baltimore was the perfect spot. Cowboys sleeper NFL draft target could make immediate impact. The Dallas Cowboys lack experience and proven playmaking ability at running back, following Tony Pollard's departure to the Tennessee Titans in free agency. That might be about to change. As the NFL draft nears, the Cowboys' needs at offensive tackle and depth along the front seven will likely rank high on the organization's priority list, but few positions are in more focus ahead of 2024 than the uncertainty at running back. ESPN lists explosive University of Texas running back Jhonathon Brooks as the prospect outside of the first round who could be a perfect fit to fill arguably the biggest hole on the Cowboys roster. The Cowboys' lack of a starting caliber running back on the roster means whomever they draft has to be ready to carry the load, Matt Miller writes for ESPN. Brooks can do that, despite coming off a November ACL injury. Brooks has power and vision, and he is the best pass-protecting back in the class. He posted 1,139 yards last season. Finally healthy, Brooks looked the part of an explosive back during the 2023 season while averaging 6.1 yards per carry and reaching the end zone 10 times. In what many consider to be a lackluster running back class, Brooks might be the most coveted prospect at the position. Jhonathon Brooks NFL Draft Scouting Report. Brooks has the speed and explosiveness to step into an NFL backfield and become a bell cow, which is the caliber of running back the Cowboys have been missing since Ezekiel Elliott's decline and eventual departure. Pro Football Focus points out that Brooks averaged a whopping 3.91 yards after contact per carry last season while forcing 63 missed tackles and garnering an elite 140.3 elusive rating during a stellar 2023 campaign. NFL Media's Lance Zierlein compares Brooks to former Kansas City Chiefs star Jamal Charles. He's agile and smooth working from cut to cut, Zierlein writes of Brooks, and is likely to improve his feel for reading blocks and setting up defenders as he gains experience. Brooks has the wiggle and know how to create yardage in tight quarters or in space but is efficient finishing runs when it's time. Even as the Cowboys face turmoil along the offensive line, having to replace two premier starters in All-Pro tackle Tyron Smith and stalwart center Tyler Biadasz, Brooks is the type of back who can mask some of the growing pains a revamped offensive line might go through. Is Cowboys' backfield by committee approach coming? Whether the Cowboys end up selecting Brooks, or another running back, or even enter September with the backfield as is, Dallas could take a running back by committee approach. But, Cowboys COO Stephen Jones says the backfield remains a work in progress. "We're looking at the draft, too," Jones told the team's official website. "We don't have an established RB in the organization right now. It's something we'll be looking at, in terms of getting young there again. But I wouldn't be surprised if we also address it in free agency." Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy has lauded the running back by committee approach in the past, and if the regular season began today, Dallas would feature Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis, and Snooper Connor, which could certainly use an upgrade. "In this day and time, everybody's got complementary backs in this league," Jones admitted. "This has become the norm. I see us not just fixing it with one player at the running back position, but with more than one player." Cowboys predicted to trade projected $115 million star for top draft picks. If you're going to start over, you might as well really start over. And for the Cowboys, if there's a chance that quarterback Dak Prescott is not in the future plans, then there may well be no point in having wide receiver CeeDee Lamb in the future plans, either. That is the thinking at the USA Today site Cowboys Wire, which is advocating in its latest mock draft a pair of megatrades that finish off the process that pretty much already began during this year's NFL free agency process: the dismantling of the Cowboys as we know them. Trading Prescott is one move. Trading Lamb is another. Already gone are 5 starters from 2023, including stalwart left tackle Tyron Smith and running back Tony Pollard. The Cowboys have added precious little on the free agent market, and declined to make the one move that could have kept the team together while also proving a new direction: firing Mike McCarthy and adding a new head coach. Instead, the Cowboys' strategy has been to keep McCarthy and sit on their hands through free agency. And if the 2024 season flops as badly as 2023 did, we're likely in for a complete roster demolition. Why not just start it now? CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott on the trading block. In addition to reaping a draft haul for Prescott, Cowboys Wire is advocating a 2-pick haul for Lamb, sending him to the Pittsburgh Steelers for their first-round pick and their third-round pick. As the site notes, that package is similar to the one brought in by Tennessee when it traded A.J. Brown to Philadelphia. Here's the logic from Cowboys Wire writer K.D. Drummond. If Dallas is going young at quarterback, signing Lamb to a long-term deal makes little sense. Instead, this adds more draft capital to a rebuilding offense. Dallas now has 3 first-round picks in the 2024 draft along with a ton of cap space moving forward, with only Micah Parsons in need of a top-of-market extension. That's, essentially, how the Cowboys and their fans would have to think about a post-2024 season, if things continue on their current path. Prescott replaced by Trey Lance and, likely, another young player. Lamb replaced by a player from this draft, which is loaded with wide receivers. It would be Micah Parsons' team, certainly, but it would look very different going forward. Cowboys could ask for more. Of course, if the Cowboys put Lamb on the trade market, the hope would be that he would draw more than what Brown drew for the Titans in 2021. The impetus would be the same: money. Brown wanted a big extension from the Titans, but they were not budging off what they wanted to pay him. So the Titans traded him, and the Eagles gave him a 4-year, $100 million contract. Lamb wants to be the highest-paid wide receiver in the game. Spotrac projects him to be close, at $28.8 million per year, with a 4-year, $115 million total deal. Brown was coming off a year in which he missed 4 games and totaled 869 yards on 63 receptions. He had been excellent in his first 2 seasons, with 1,051 yards as a rookie and 1,078 yards in year 2. Brown scored 24 touchdowns and averaged 69.7 yards per game in his first 3 years. Lamb blows those numbers away. He is coming off a year in which he led the league with 135 receptions and totaled 1,749 yards. He averaged 78.0 yards per game in his career, and had 102.9 yards per game last season. The Brown trade is a starting point, but if the Cowboys move Lamb, they should certainly expect to add more than 2 picks, even if they're good picks. All of this is a long shot. It's likely the Cowboys play things out, grind through the 2024 season, then are left with a mess of an offseason. But they could get ahead of things by making some bold trades ahead of this draft.